Welcome in, everybody. Here over at Game Arena. I'm Emily. I'm back. If you were watching the Gleck stream last night, you saw my face. You heard my voice. Maybe you're sick of it at this point, but I'm here, so you're stuck with it. I'm joined here today on this side of me.
Hello. uh, Happy to be here. I haven't casted for Game Arena anything like this in a while. I've been fiending honestly to get back into things. Sorry, I got my dog here. She's throwing her toys around. I'm happy to be back. I am happy to do some casting of some Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, we got a great event for you here today. Double Duel happening down here in Columbus at Game Arena. We're going to be starting off with our Marvel Rivals side. Going to be a standard double elimination bracket, 7 teams, so maybe a little bit of a funky setup, but either way, a lot of good games to be played, a lot of cool stuff to watch. And then once we get later into the day, we're going to be having some Val come up. Talk more about that once we get closer to that. But taking us in, first game of the day, Manchester University taking on Scholars of the Game. So big thing for this, if you were looking at that bracket, a lot of collegiate teams coming out and showing their space. Rivals obviously relatively new as far as competitive scene goes, but nice to see some of the collegiate teams come out, and super fun to get some mixed teams like Scholars up in this bracket.
Yeah, it's a bit of a goofy team, right? You know, you see up on the top side of your screen, Manchester University. I'm sorry if you can hear the dog in the background. But Manchester University, fully lined up, fully in their jerseys, and then you got Scholars of the Game. Everything is a win when the goal is experienced. They all just chill in there. Um, there is. We received word in the setup to this stream that one of the players for Scholars of the Game, I think, is a Game Arena employee, right?
Yeah, one of them, TM Opera, floor operator here down at Game Arena. So not only playing for glory and potential prize money, but also playing so that they don't have to work on Sunday. So fun little stuff. These opening rounds, I believe, best of 3s. So obviously win 2. You make it through. Starting out on domination for any of my Overwatch fiends in the chat. Very similar to Control. Same idea where you have that central point that you've got to capture and then hold up until that 100%. OT if you have people touching. Standard kind of setup, but obviously with its own little quirks as is custom to these games, not being directly Overwatch.
Right, you got things like the destructible walls, you got, the team ups, you got the just general design and balance philosophy difference as well. I think that's kind of the main thing when you think about differences between, a Marvel Rivals and an Overwatch, right? Where Overwatch, when you think about, oh, you got the healing reduction off of what used to be the DPS passive got moved over into the general passive, where damaging enemy players reduces their healing ticket. Marvel Rivals, the closest you have to that is Blade's ultimate. Outside of that, I might be missing something off the top of my head, but healing is exceptionally powerful. There was a 3 support meta for a while, but I do think things have kind of stabilized around a 2-2-2 comp, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit of 1-3-2 maybe, or 2-1-3, I guess it would be. So I'm going to be interested to see if these teams, especially on a map like Brennan T'Challa, this one I do think is a little bit more 3 support heavy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, what's also going to be really interesting, I think, for this in general, as we get sort of into our pick ban phase, is although we don't have the new hero online for this LAN, obviously since the patch came out a couple days ago, maybe less than a week ago at this point, we are still on the new patch. So a lot of those design philosophy changes that come in with things like how fast ults are earned and whatnot, and micro changes to how abilities are, something that we'll also be seeing with Valorant later in the day. These teams do have to adapt to the new patch. They do have to adapt to these characters functioning a little bit differently than how maybe they were prepared for. But still, a lot of that similar, like you said, with the structure of potentially wanting to go towards the triple sup design, or the triple sup play on certain maps, still definitely going to be viable.
Absolutely. The ban phase coming through here, I don't think we're seeing anything too surprising, like Cloak and Dagger, Phoenix. Emma and Hella bans all over there for Skulls. The game is they drop in their last. It's a group ban compared to Tank Deadpool. I'm not actually sure how the Deadpool bans work. I don't see that ban. I don't play the game very much, and when I do, I intentionally don't try to climb too much because it makes me feel bad if I climb in Marvel Rivals. um, okay,
see.
okay.
Thank
So
you, thank you,
confirmation from
production. Thank you, production. But yeah, I mean, both these comps, it looks like, yeah, both teams going to be opting for appears to be the 2-2-2s that you were talking about. So similar to a lot of games, just opting to go for sort of the cover as much of your bases as you can. Don't try to super specialize into one thing, because if that super specialization falls through, then you run into problems.
Yeah, kind of like flexing my muscles here a little bit. It's kind of like if we're comparing it to other games, it's kind of like in Pokemon you got balance teams, right? Where it's like a balance of different styles. You can go into whatever you might necessarily need. You can stall if you need. You can go offense if you need. That's kind of like the 2-2-2, right? Is a little bit more of a balance type of composition compared to a 1-3-2, or compared to if you want to go crazy, a high DPS comp and try to blow people up. Especially, I do think I'm interested to see if things like that can work with the support changes, or the ult changes, I should say, because I do think it hurts supports the most.
Oh, absolutely. I will say I was not expecting the Pokemon meta drop on casts, but you know what? That's what we're here for. Already early little bits of contact here and there, back and forth from the two teams, kind of just vying for control, especially of this top. Mindless gonna be able to get the first drop, but with the rocket on board for both Scholars and, well, for Manchester, gonna be that early res. Won't help you at that point. Thor able to get dropped, and Scholars able to get that early control. Roku able to already start to do a little bit more damage, try to force Manchester back and try to force a little bit more stalls out for this team.
Right, and I think one thing to mention before this match is I think it's important to note that Scholars of the Game, based on the average skill level of players, are the favorites in this one, right? When looking at the ranks, they are a little bit higher on average than Manchester, so they should be expected to be able to win fights like these, like opening fights where, you know, it's a neutral standing, there's no ults, there's no chicanery going on early enough.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that could play more of an effect into that as we see another one of these scuffles come down is kind of the difference between your more mixed teams and your more coordinated, like, collegiate teams. When you have a competitive season, as I know for Rivals, at least for NECC, nearing that end, if not some of these teams already eliminated from those postseasons, you have a lot of time that you've been playing together, so you have kind of an idea of, hey, here's how we want to run our structure. And with a mixed team, you know, maybe you don't have quite as much as that, running off of more just pure fundamentals. But as we were discussing that, Manchester are able to break through, get a couple onto that point, but Scholars, they're going to be able to turn around, not able to stop the capture. But with how isolated these last two are, yeah, should be easy picks, although the Doctor Strange portal going to be able to get some of those Manchester players back out onto the field faster than Scholars may be expecting, but still able to stabilize here. Full teams on this point, looking for something in the eye. It's going to come through, able to get a little bit, but not as much. Magneto all coming through, so will Hella. A little bit of damage here and there. No picks really secured by either. The eye isn't going to do anything, is actually going to get reverse shut down. Scholars able to find it. And now able to...
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a stall there. Almost became a full team fight that Manchester were able to take there with that Strange portal. They aren't going to have another chance, and with this stagger of what they're looking to do once a big Burke, if he can get out, then there's a chance at this next fight, especially with this Strange coming into support here, right? It looks like it was possible to get a solid team fight win, and with this Maggle, that's going to be a nice pick.
Yeah, it's going to be a really nice set of picks. Two coming through for the side of Manchester. Unfortunately, those Scholars able to stabilize, able to stall out, and Manchester just won't be able to touch. So round one of this control going to be going to the side of Scholars.
fairly dominant. Manchester did lock things down a little bit towards the middle, right, with that good stall, that good back cap that they're able to sneak away from Scholars of the game. But I do hope to see a little bit more from them, right? Take more advantage of those opportunities as they come around. And also, I think that one thing I would love to see against a team who is on average stronger than you, you are not often going to win a head-to-head 1v1 like a standard sort of competition. I want to see them get a little bit weird with it, right? Whenever you see like teams that are on paper worse than another team, the way they win oftentimes, if they do, is by getting a little bit corny, getting a little bit cheesy, and stepping outside of the box. That's kind of what I want to see here from Manchester, I think.
I mean, we could be seeing it right now. Looking at the character select stream, Manchester opting to go for the 3 DPS mode instead of the 2-2-2, opting to bring over a third just to try to amp up the damage. I'm not opposed to this, but I completely understand what you were saying with the with when you're facing a team that in theory is stronger than you. If you look at just those average ranks, you know, you want to try to get a little bit goofier with it. The only issue with it being right now, I think, is the side of Roku for Scholars of the game. He's been just on this Punisher, but we've been seeing him able to just force out so much damage and force so much respect on these long-range angles, as we're going to be able to see it. Big tracking onto Manchester. Mindless going to be able to finish off that pick, and it's going to force a little bit of a fallback from Manchester. Able to get an early 9%, but unable to move much further. And now Scholar's going to maybe try to exert a little more, but let him get back.
That concerns me a little bit. One thing I have to mention is, yes, I did say, you know, I do want to see them getting a little bit cheesy with it. And I do like that they are. I have to question the point here of the Namor pick, right? Looking at things, Namor obviously a little bit more traditionally strong against flanker heavy comps, right? The Black Panther, the Spider-Man. When playing against Hawkeye and Punisher, it can feel really difficult to get anything done, as he's just watching his team get blown to smithereens from through the wall.
Yeah, the auto turrets and the general kit really good at picking off people when they're isolated, but Scholar's not really going for that, going for much more of a, although they have range to it, I'd argue it's almost like a brawl comp. They aren't really trying to split up and poke here and there. They're just trying to stay as a 6 and just kind of say, all right, we're all here and you have to deal with us.
Break through, right? Break through the wall. Break through what we're doing to you here. There's going to be a potential ultimate coming in here. The Punisher ult has been denied, and look at this. Manchester are going to go for the fight win here, as the rocket utility has been dropped and has been utilized fully, and the ults are just keep coming.
Yeah, Manchester, like you said, needed to get a little bit weird with it, and it looked like exactly that. Riri Panda here on this site. I'm completely blanking on names. I'm stupid. But opting to kind of break the front line, opt to go into the back line, try to dive the characters who are, you know, maybe when you get up close on them, somebody like the Punisher, although he has the shotgun, his DPS up incredibly close, is going to be neutered. And if you can play a more melee-heavy character and try to isolate those fights, you might be able to start something. But Scholars back on full, 3 ults in the pocket. Nobody else incredibly close for it on their side. Manchester, similar placement, and the Invisible Woman all coming through along with the Eye. It's like no big impact though. Mindless going to be able to find the first pick.
Magneto ult dropping in, seeing if it can get any targets. It doesn't seem like it can. There's still 1 kill here, but it's just going to be 1 player remaining, and yeah, it's going to be a kill. There comes... Oh god, there was 1 more after the 1 more, but didn't last very long. 59% is a good start here, but there's 1 fight left really for Manchester.
Yeah, there isn't a ton of time here, and Scholars playing that style incredibly well, just able to get up and force Manchester into this back alley. 10% left, and you need to break this line almost instantly. And for the side of Manchester, actually going to be able to do that with the Doctor Strange portals, force some of the Scholars players to go back and fight this. I'd allow for more Manchester to get up, but looks like on that move-in, we're picked off. So Scholars, barring any last-second touch, is going to be able to take our first map here, 2-0, putting them up 1-0 in the series.
Yeah, no need to drop the final judgment there at the end. It was already decided. 3 players just kind of evaporated all at the same time for Manchester. There was just nothing they could do. The positioning. It was a really good push up there from I almost called them students of the game. We were talking about that before the stream. From scholars of the game, a really good push up to get some, last second kills to prevent a solid fight at the end there, right? The way that scholars of the game were able to cut out any chance for Manchester, not in that last fight necessarily, but by preventing that last fight. It's good. It's what you want to see. It's good macro play from Manchester, or not from Manchester, but from scholars of the game. Manchester now are going to have the opportunity to go somewhere a little bit more comfortable and find somewhere that they feel a little bit better playing.
Oh, yeah. And for scholars here, MVP going out to Mindless on that Magneto, got so much impact. I will also give a big shout out to Roku here, 31-3 on the Punisher. It's kind of what you expect from like a heavy DPS hit scan character like that, but
Look
still,
at that damage, Emily.
yeah, 17,000 damage, almost 18,000 from one character alone is just monumental. It's incredibly hard to stop something like that.
There are 2 players you could combine together on the side of scholars of the game to get that much damage. And only 2. There's one possible combination to match the damage of the Punisher there. Ridiculous amounts of output. What do you do in a situation where you were just getting melted down into a fine mist by a player like that?
Yeah, the only thing that you really can look for is even something like I'm gonna shout my Overwatch stuff because we were casting it last night, and I think like I'm from BW. I'm biased. They went undefeated in the regular season, so I'm gonna talk about it. But like, one of the styles that they play incredibly well is the ability to essentially negate any sort of front line that teams set up and just insta-dive on backs. And that comes courtesy of specifically Vendetta, but usually it's the combination of Vendetta and Zarya, giving you a little bit more of that free, you can just stay alive, take no damage, but then you jump the back line and say, we are just here now. And that's, I feel like, something that Manchester needs to go for. You need to force scholars to not just be able to play on those long sight lines, because like something that you were saying with the combination of the Punisher and the Hawkeye, you can just play long sights, you can play longer angles, and as long as you don't get jumped on, you're kind of just fine. And we were seeing Manchester just kind of not incredibly choose to cut down the distance. It was just kind of okay, we're going to almost play into the way that they want to play.
Yeah, and I'm kind of confused, I have to say. I think Yggdrasil's Path is an odd map pick against, like, I didn't think about it at first, but when you brought up, the way that scholars of the game are playing from range, I'm not so sure how I feel about Yggdrasil's Path here. As I'm sorry, puppy, as I'm not. The map feels like it's not necessarily, a spam map, but it's much longer range than I feel some of the other options might have been here.
Yeah, it's something that is really going to be interesting. And I feel like Manchester going to be getting a little bit more targeted with those bans. Already popping the Hawkeye to get it out of there, so to limit that potential long range that we were seeing from the side of scholars.
The one ban cut out all of Scholar of the Game's picks.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if they're going to choose to do the double targets as well once it comes up, choosing to go for the Punisher as well. Just try to take out both those hard hit scans. Opting not to, though, going to take out Emma Frost. Keeps things, I feel like, standard, relatively speaking.
I feel like you would want to go for the Punisher ban here, right? The Protect came in from Scholars of the Game on the Cloak and Dagger. Without the Punisher, being shown off, granted, right? You could be throwing yourself into an even worse situation if you do ban away the Punisher, and it turns out Scholars of the Game just have like a ridiculous, I don't know, Bucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another sort of long range is the Punisher Protect comes in now. Like, I think that was your highest value ban. You brought it up, and I think not seeing it come through is concerning to me.
I mean, yes, I think I think I can understand the rationale behind it, because it's a similar thing with now there being hero bans in Overwatch, where it's the same idea. It's the dilemma of, okay, is kneecapping them going to bring them down to a level that we can work with while also removing our ability to potentially play that? And we see Riri Panda hovering that Punisher in the hero select. So it's definitely something that Manchester was thinking about. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have to weigh your options. And it's like, is the ban of the Punisher taking out their offense reasonable enough for us to lose our offense?
That is true, and we are seeing, right, a few compositional differences on this map, right? We don't see, had to double check to make sure I wasn't spouting nonsense. There's currently no hovers on the Invis, right?
No, yeah.
Like compared to map 1, Invis was played by both teams. Now it's the Cloak and Dagger being played by both teams. I think it was banned last map. And we're seeing the group come in, right? Group coming in for both teams, you know, a little bit more of that pokey style, switching out for the Strange on both teams, right? No more Strange. We're hovering the triple tank here for Scholars of the Game, though. That's... Okay, no, we're going to go...
For a while, they were hovering triple damage, single support.
That I did see.
And I was like, that's kind of wild. With how, like... But how much, like you were talking about, how much healing output there is in this game and how much of a requirement that almost is. Like, seeing that was just kind of interesting. But things have stabilized. Scholars opting to go for the Iron Man instead of the Hawkeye, obviously with that getting banned out early. And now we're going to have to see how this game plan is going to go. But Scholars still have a ton of those hard hit scan characters, and something that I find interesting about Rivals, watching it so far, has been kind of the prevalence of controller players in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to me. Like, talking with people casually about this game, a lot of controller players seem to think that playing on controllers is so much harder. And at the same time, there's a lot of controller play at these higher levels, and that I do think is interesting, right? But look at how much Scholars of the Game are getting here off of almost no kills. The kills do start to come in now as Iggy is just going to blow people up with this Iron Man pick. But they got so much space off of no eliminations, and they're going to cap first off of one not even truly real fight.
Yeah, it was just an elongated poke. That you could consider your first team fight for going down for the side of Manchester. Scholars able to get that first point. But yeah, Manchester just not... I don't want to say not putting up a fight, but just kind of not setting a hard line in the sand to play around, and Scholars just working exactly off the space that they're given and not really giving a reason for, not really giving Manchester a reason to stop. And Roku keeping up that damage output. Only one kill attributed to the final judgment, but so much damage getting output, so many assists. Now again, if you're the side of Manchester, you are just getting forced back to your spawn doors. It's going to be more for Iggyman. And like we were saying, Scholars not really even having to work off of a ton of picks and just able to stall Manchester out and get the space that they want.
They will be walking out here with some ultimates. If they can even break through this doorway, there's a touch of lead for Manchester, but it's only going to be momentary here. Though, there comes the ultimate there from... That's just not good enough, it seems. There we go, the Cloak and Dagger diving through with another ultimate. Manchester throwing everything at the wall here to try to make this one work. It's been 3 ultimates so far, and they will have 3 more coming along the way, but it does seem as though they've managed to repel Scholars of the Game, who have seemed to kite away from the issues that they are presented with.
Yeah, they were able to clear off that point, which is it's a good start. It's definitely necessary, but the issue for the side of Manchester is you need to now start constantly doing that. But with the output of Roku and Iggy, it's not getting stopped. They're just able to output so much, and now even from the supports coming in from TM and Lex, like, just... Scholars are putting on, I mean, just a worthy show here.
Really excellent. They do just barely miss out on the 5-minute mark heading into this 3rd point. but they still have quite an array of ultimates. 3 ults available. Manchester as well do have 3 ultimates, but the difference here comes in the Scholars of the Game. They're close coming up on this final judgment. 88% now. Should be up in this next fight. Whoever throws out an ult first, I do think is going to win this, as here comes the first one.
Yeah, a lot of these ults getting picked out early. The Ultron ult coming through, able to provide a little bit extra damage. Hella getting popped from the side of Manchester, trying to get some, will be able to get some big damage, and with some holes here and there, might be able to find, unable to find any picks, able to get some of the Scholars players low, but just able to get out of the line of sight there. And like you said, that final judgment coming up, able to find the first, and a massive stick, I believe, from the Groot ult, and just so much getting brought down. And Roku, he doesn't need to stop. He's not going to get forced into stopping. Why would he? So much impact coming out from this player. And now with 3:40 left on the clock, not going to be able to end with more time than they started, but Manchester, don't even believe, oh, just barely able to get the final touch in there. Could start to force something and able to shut down the Iron Man ult. This could get interesting here if Manchester continue to rally back. Mindless able to find a response, but Manchester, they're gonna have the respawn priority. But they're gonna be able to force Scholars back with the force of that Groot. Mindless trying to get back in time, will be able to stay up and actually able to exercise some own, able to get the Groot out of Manchester, trying to force a little bit more. And the final judgment from the side of Manchester coming out. It
was an attempt there. It was an attempt there with the Meteor M to cancel out the Soul Bond, right? The classic Magneto versus Cloak and Dagger, unable to find the kills, as there's still more ultimates being pumped into this one. There we go, the Namor drops his own. It doesn't seem to be enough, though, as Manchester unable to repel the offense, and there's just only a couple meters left. Only so many bodies can drop onto this payload as the cap finally comes through for Scholars of the Game. That a prolonged fight, thanks to, I have to say, the supports for Scholars of the Game doing an amazing job keeping their tanks alive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the stall that we saw there, like the ability that Scholars didn't have to get fully reset. They were just able to fall back into the point, and the subs who were still up, able to keep those tanks alive, not allowing for really any final crumble. And looking at maybe a little bit of a swap up here and there. Looks like, though, for the side of Scholars, things going to be staying... Actually, I mean, if this sticks... a very different identity. Single support, triple tank potentially coming out for the side of Scholars. Obviously still 5 seconds, so could change their mind, could make me look foolish. But yeah, a little bit of different identities for both of these comps. For the side of Scholars, opting to go for triple tank, and for the side of Manchester, at least for now, opting to go for that triple DPS, bringing the Squirrel Girl onto the board.
I like this. I like the Squirrel Girl a whole lot more than I liked the Namor pick, in my opinion. Even though we are going to see the 2-2-2 come out for Scholars of the Game, I think this should be expected, right? They're getting a little bit silly with it. Not so silly to play a triple tank with only one healer, and that healer, I think, was the Ultron, I think they were hovering on.
I think it was just the Ultron, yeah.
Yeah, no chance you're ever going to see something like that come out.
Yeah.
With 0 deaths, by the way, on supports for Scholars of the Game. A small note I want to add, just for how well they've been playing on this map. But I think the Squirrel Girl is excellent, even though there are 2 flyers for students of the game, and you could argue, you know, go back to the Punisher, go on to something, you know, a little bit long-range hit scan, which it does seem like we're going to see it. Maybe? No, not quite.
I think just jumping back there to get that auto heal, you know? Yeah. Try to keep your health up, but, I mean, Roku already able to find an early first pick. Iggy coming in with the second there, and able to find the third. Yeah, Manchester here getting, I mean, only 30 seconds in, so still a lot of time. And we're seeing kind of some of the impact that the Squirrel Girl can have, not necessarily having to be super pinpoint accurate with the ability of the primary fire to bounce around, have a little bit of contact damage, so could provide a little bit more, but unfortunately they get dropped by that Iron Man. And like you were saying earlier, that's the issue that comes in with playing at least the initial DPS lineup. We are going to be seeing some of those swap overs to try to remedy some of the problems that you were addressing with a lot of the flyers on the team of the Scholars. But Manchester now with this new lineup have to figure out how they want to break this, as with just over 2.5 minutes left and very minimal space on the payload gained. It is going to be a long road ahead.
It's getting a little bit rough here as I think has been 2 of the 3 DPS switching over, 3 of the 3 actually with the switch over back to the Hela from Not Jax. So all the DPS unsure as to what they want to play here. Loki coming in as well. There's only 2 characters that have stayed in the lineup here for Manchester as they try to find anything that can help blow their way through this massive problem that is Scholars of the Game. Now about to have 5 ultimates online as they're all starting to come on all at once.
Yeah, I like the idea that the Star-Lord could bring in. The unfortunate issue with it is going directly into 3 ultimates from the side of Scholars is going to get dropped. Lacking the ult's not getting as much directly done, but Scholars able to capitalize off of the space that it brings and able to push that payload essentially back to start with just over 1:40 remaining for Manchester. And
3 ults, though. They did use 3 ults there, Scholars of the Game, I have to say, Emily. And Manchester, they're about to have 5. They did only use the Cloak and Dagger ultimate in that last fight, so there is something to do as they get a second Cloak and Dagger ult. They get, you know, the Judgment's Call. Or the Final Judgment, rather.
Yeah, starting to put up actually really big numbers here. But again, we were talking about it, the Scholars of the Game supports able to keep the tanks alive. I couldn't tell if it was mindless or secret, but able to survive just getting solo targeted by that Final Judgment. And that just come down to the heal output that Scholars have been able to put out, keeping their tanks alive, keeping really everybody on their team alive. And the Hela alt pop here, it's in a pretty good position, able to provide a lot of pressure, allow Manchester to push up. With only 45 seconds remaining, Scholars are here and just one good team fight, which Roku might be trying to call himself with the Final Judgment getting popped. Is going to drop, though. Mindless able to get a response, but Riri able to find 2 more of his own. I believe that's 3 alone with the ult. And triple on the side of your screen, and that realistically should be Manchester getting first point, able to really cause a conversation here. Is, you know, I was maybe getting a little preemptive, wanting to call them out, but ooh, last second touch,
Triangle Prison.
Yeah, could be seeing a lot come out here along with the Ultron ult.
Oh, unreal turnaround there from Scholars of the Game. The Strange Portal into 2 ultimates. They just had everything they needed there, Emily.
Yeah, just able to bring it across the line at the end. The last second swap from Iggy going away from the Iron Man, going into that Strange, so they're able to keep the big ults that they could work with up. That's going to be Scholars able to take their opening match 2-0. A nice start here for the, I guess, the Game Arena mixed team, if you want to call it that.
Right, and I do want to say, obviously well played from Manchester. They started to lock things down a little bit towards the end there. Just as an update for the rest of the bracket right now, Ohio Northern versus Shawnee State went 2-0 to Ohio Northern, and then Baldwin Wallace versus Ohio Wesleyan. Any B-Dubs fans in the audience are going to be quite happy as they did manage to take it over OWU.
Yeah, so with all these round 1 games concluding, going to start to get some of those round 2 and winners, start to look towards some of those losers matches coming up, as some of these teams now going to be fighting for their tournament lives. And I mean, looking at the stat sheet here, I mean, MVP Iggy, Roku also stepping up, again, 20k damage, but when you have another person putting out over 20k damage, it's very hard to fight that.
Yeah, it's sometimes the best that you can do is just it's just ridiculous, the damage numbers. 2 players putting over 20k on the field. And again, I want to bring up, you know, they didn't get a ton of visibility, but the supports, we brought it up a few times, 27, 21, not the highest healing, but it's the healing where it matters, right? It is the output by quality, not by quantity, especially when you take a look at the damage, right? Lexu Wu is a little bit behind. I'm not going to say that name, actually. I don't feel like saying that name. But Manchester slightly ahead on the damage of the Cloak and Daggers, but then you compare the Loki versus the Ultron and things get very different, very visible. Obviously, Ultron is going to have very high healing out or very high damage output comparatively to the rest of the supports in this game, but that is a lot of damage for a support to be dealing. Just piles on the pressure.
Yeah, and as we were talking with that win, we actually have the opportunity to get, because we got everybody in house, we got one of the scholars stepping into the booth. So we're kind of making the joke that that you're fighting for your life to not have to work on Sunday. How's that feel?
Oh, they actually told you that?
Yep.
Yeah, I am actually.
We got Gabe in the call.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, I am fighting for my life, so I don't have to, clock in tomorrow. So hoping to make that day too, to be honest, though. And we started off big, so it's looking good.
I was gonna say you guys look dominant, and so one of the things that we were kind of talking about was obviously with this being the one non-collegiate team in the bracket, it's one of those things where you don't have the regular collegiate season where you're playing together. How much would you say that this team of 6 has practiced together? Is this purely a pickup team where it's you guys are first time that the full 6 are playing together is today and maybe a little bit of pugging the night before?
Yeah, so we basically just scrimmed one time 2 days ago. Other than
You
that, we
scrimmed?
just kind of hard grinded comp, and we weren't a full 6 in comp, but we were 4. So, and we honestly started preparation 2 weeks ago. So
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say we were talking about it the entire time, and I feel like one of the big players in both those wins was Roku on that Punisher. Just I mean, the damage output. Map 1, I think he was just shy of 18K. Map 2, just shy of 21K. He's putting out big damage, and also I mean, across the entire board, it seems like you guys have a lot of massive output. What do you? I mean, is that just a thing where it's you feel like everybody's playstyles just work together super well on the day, or?
I would say we're all Overwatch players, so we're pretty locked in on that end, and we know how to do damage and optimize that and stuff. So we're pretty good at making sure that we're shooting our guns. And Blue, he's just a Punisher player, so he's gonna shoot his gun always. That's kind of why he's here. We kind of brought him on to just turn his mind off and just shoot down main.
You gave him a gun and said, "All right, dude, do your thing. Have fun."
He's just our hit scan player at the end of the day. So
I was about
he's
to
always
say,
gonna do a lot of damage.
welcome to the team, hit scan player. Go shoot the bad guys, please.
Literally, yeah. that was the game plan when I brought him on.
Grab your mouse, kid. You're doing 50 cents.
We're gonna put you on and just have fun, man.
Yeah,
I gotta
pretty much.
ask. Heading into this, do you have? I am shocked to hear that you guys actually managed to get a scrim in. Genuinely, in the fact that you're practicing 2 weeks in advance, do you have any sort of compositions that you as a team decided to go out there a little bit, go a little bit kooky, and build a comp that you might not be expecting the other team to be prepared for?
Honestly, it's the Punisher comp. I won't lie.
Yeah.
We just kind of we looked at it and we were like, oh yeah, this guy can shoot his gun on Punisher, so we're just gonna build around him pretty much. And we make the swaps depending on the bans and stuff. But I also gotta shout out Sev. He kind of coached us as well these last 2 weeks. He gave us a lot of the comps that we've been running. So a lot of the comps that you see in those games are gonna be from him mostly. But we make the swaps again like that Ultron Iron Man. We pull that out if we have to.
Yeah, I was going to say the Ultron Iron Man, it was getting good impact. Also, the last second swap, especially for that map 1 onto the Doctor Strange to get that portal into the end. Yeah, that was something that it was I wasn't expecting it. I was just fully okay, Manchester has first point. We continue on forward, and then it's oh, never mind. There's 4 of them on point. All right.
Yeah, we sent our Groot in. He had the touch. So.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, going forward, I feel like. Any expectations for the weekend other than just pushing it as far as you can? Was there ever a result with this team where you would be oh, well, that was kind of disappointing, or was it just hey, let's get together and see what we can do?
Honestly, we came into this thinking we were going to get absolutely rolled. To be completely honest, again, we didn't only have the 2 weeks of practice, so we were maybe we'll just get rolled, or maybe we'll do. It was either do really good or do really bad.
I see.
I think we're in the in between though. So I think we changed that.
I mean, I was gonna say winning that first match is really good. Obviously, moving forward, you guys will have next matches coming up pretty soon. I mean, any teams that you do you know any of the teams that are here Okay.
Not really.
I was gonna say if there were any teams you really wanted to play, but if it was You don't really have any big ideas, just kind of take them as they come.
Honestly, probably OWU. We were supposed to scrim them, but unfortunately due to just rescheduling issues. So we kind of I want to get that match in, honestly, and play against them and see, because again, we were supposed to scrim, so and
That's
just fell
fair.
through.
That's fair. For a second, I thought you were going to say that they just like chalked you like.
No.
30 minutes
They were missing a few players. So.
I see. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, they just bailed on us.
Yeah, they were like 30 minutes before they were like, nah, guys, we're good.
Nah,
30
nah.
for like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's sitting in the lobby just waiting for it. Have you ever had those scripts?
Our one scrim, we got in, right? And I guess it was their first time scrimming too in Marvel Rivals. But they were looking for ringers while we were in the lobby.
Yes.
So I was like, And then they like found 2 ringers just halfway through and brought them in. I was like, okay.
All right, sure. Yeah. Welcome to the team, I guess.
Yeah.
Esports never change.
Yeah. I mean, anything you want to say to everybody tuning in on the broadcast, watching?
I'm just gonna leave it at, everything is a win if the goal is experience. That's our motto.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. Yeah, thank you for stepping into the booth. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you guys continue forward.
Yeah, hopefully I don't have to work on tomorrow.
Hey, listen, I think if you guys win one more, you don't have to win.
That's the goal.
You'll make top 4.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
The goal is to go 2-1. So, but thank you guys.
If you guys lose your next game, and you said it was Ohio Wesleyan you tried to scrim, right?
I think yeah.
If you lose your next game and Ohio Wesleyan wins their next game, you have to play Ohio Wesleyan to not work tomorrow.
That's what we want. That's the goal. That's the goal. So hopefully they win their game, and honestly, hopefully we don't lose our game. But I'm okay with it, I guess.
If it happens, it happens. It's like, oh man, we're losers, but at the same time, we have to play the team we wanted to play. So yeah. But no, yeah, man. Thank you for stepping into the booth. I'm gonna let you get back to your team, get back with the prep for match number 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for stepping in. Yeah, always a pleasure to have these LAN events like this, be able to talk with some of the competitors, no matter if they're from a university that's made the trip down or one of the guys who just works on the floor and was like, let's enter the tournament and see what happens.
There's nothing quite like the LAN experience for esports. I miss it. I miss it dearly. Not even the competition, but being in your seat, being able to mess around with the players and cast in person. If you ever have the opportunity as a viewer to go to a LAN event and you haven't, take that opportunity, because it is an excellent time.
No, yeah, it's a super fun time. And obviously there's like the tier 1 events, which are like, hey, we're in the arena, it's the big times. But also it's like even stuff like this, like Game Arena, it's a nice space. It's great. It's perfectly good for one of these LANs, but it's kind of quaint. Like you step in, you have enough setups. Again, we've got a 7-team LAN here. I think it could theoretically be 8 with the PC space, but it's just a nice spot that we have, and it's a nice opportunity to be given to bring all of these games to you. Obviously, we said these map 2s these match 2s coming up. We are going to cut to a little bit of a break as we get all of the lobbies and everything set up, all these players set. But once we get it back, it'll be match number 2. I assume another winner's bracket, potentially one of those qualifiers to top 4, although I'm not entirely sure.
It'll be a winner's semifinals, I believe.
Yeah. But yeah, we will see ya when we come back.